Hello and welcome to episode 160 of Controller Club, the friendly face gaming space, a podcast where three friends from three continents share in one love, and that is video games. My name is Tom Drew, and I'm joined by one of my best friends in the whole wide gaming world this week. Coming to us from, well, coming to me from across the pond, I guess, it's journalist extraordinaire, Australian abroad, Canadian training, Lauren Rouse. Lauren, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I've had a wild adventure this weekend across to the US. It's still there for now,
Yep.
but I've made it back. Yeah, we're going across to see Halsey in concert, so that was very exciting for me. I've been looking forward to it for months, and it was very exciting. But it was quite an adventure. So, yeah, I kind of feel like we're going to talk a little bit about Death Stranding 2 this week, and I kind of feel like I've been on a bit of an odyssey, like Sam Porter.
Yeah.
So that's been my weekend. But how's yours been?
Yeah, it's been good. I mentioned you off pod, but catching up with some old friends, doing all sorts of things. Went to like this weird, like tavern type thing. I'm not like a big drinker or anything. But my flatmates dragged me along to this place called Mr. Fogg's, which is like this. I don't know. It's like this 1800s esque like weird tavern place, and they serve like really fancy drinks. And like some of them were served in like one of them was served in like a little bathtub. And you like had like
Cool.
little foamy bubbles and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Like it was a fun little nook that I didn't know about. So if you're in London, check out Mr. Fox, I guess. But yeah. As for today's show, we are talking about Death Stranding 2 reviews, as Lauren just mentioned, that came out this past week. Street Fighter has got some new castings in the mix, and we're also going to be talking about our experience with Doom: The Dark Ages, because we've over the past couple of episodes mentioned that we've been playing Doom: The Dark Ages, and we thought we would talk about kind of after playing it what we hope from the franchise and what we hope for Doom in the future. So yeah, that's about what we got coming up. But yeah, well, let's just hop into the news. Lauren, I know you mentioned your low energy, but can you muster up a news we choose jingle? Is that possible?
Oh God, it's like I lost my singing voice at the concert. Okay. It's the news we choose. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think we'll just jump right over to you because you mentioned Death Stranding. I think we should just jump right into it. What's your news topic?
Sure. So yeah, this past week we had a big game release. It was Death Stranding 2 week. It's Hideo Kojima's next big game. We've been kind of talking in and out about it for years, I guess, but I don't think the three out of the three of us, any of us have actually played Death Stranding on. Am I correct?
So that might have changed this past weekend, but
Oh,
we'll talk about that
oh.
after the news story. Yeah.
All right, okay, all right, we'll come back to it. I definitely haven't played Death Stranding, but I have to say I've been a little bit intrigued by all these reviews because they are insanely positive. The game has a 90 on Metacritic, and we have major outlets giving it all high scores. GameSpot gave it 7, IGN gave it 9, Game Informer gave it 8.75, and then Dexerto gave it 5 out of 5. So a broad mix, but all on the higher end of the scale. So I haven't pulled any specific reviews here. I've just pulled little pieces of like what the game seems to be doing right and what it seems to be, what seem to be some of the negatives. But basically, this is a direct sequel to the first Death Stranding. You've got Norman Reedus back as Sam, and the well, from what I understand of the first game, having not played it, your task is basically in this kind of apocalyptic world to be like a mailman,
Yeah.
and reconnect the world through like reconnected after an apocalypse in this kind of strange, fantastical dystopian wasteland where you come across weird characters and uh, carry cargo, and you have a little baby that
Yep.
you have to transport. I'm not sure how that all ties together in the story without playing the first game, but in the second game seems to be more of the same. You're still connecting the world, except this time you're doing it in Mexico and Australia, which is very exciting.
Shout out.
Um, yeah, so some of the positives for the game have been about basically keeping a very familiar gameplay style, but making it a lot more approachable for people who maybe found the first game a little difficult. They've added some new, I guess, like tactical options for you how to complete your jobs. Like you can add weapons now and do things sort of like combat style, just going guns blazing, or you can do like completely stealth things, or you can do stealth gun combat. So all those kind of options are available to you now. I'm hearing that the visuals are amazing, or at least I've seen some screenshots and things that looks unreal. This is I mean, Death Stranding was a PS4 game, and this is now a PS5 game, so it's really taking advantage of the PS5's power. And they're saying that the creativity from Kojima is, of course, like off the wall, but very, very exciting in terms of also what they've added in kinds of like weapons and upgrades and tech. So those are all really positive things that I'm hearing from all the reviews that I've been reading. There's a few negatives that have been pointed out. People are saying that the pacing is still very slow, and that particularly story beats come few and far between. Like it feels like you might go a long time without seeing a cutscene, which makes you sort of feel detached a bit from the story. There's been talk about tropes around women being not great, so that's unfortunate. And there's also, I mean, this is a Kojima game, but they're saying it's sometimes very weird without justification. Whereas in the past, he may have had reasons for it being weird. And now it sometimes just feels like it's being weird for the sake of it. And then, yeah, there's been a few warnings of being like, if you don't like the first game, don't even bother. You're probably not going to like this one. So I wonder how that impacts me as someone who hasn't played the first game but is interested in this second game. Like they're saying it's more approachable. Um, I am definitely kind of peering my head over the wall, being like, this looks kind of fun over there, but like it's a 30 to 50 hour game. Like I don't want to
Yeah,
just
it's a big
sink
commitment.
time into that for no reason. So, yeah, what is your takeaway from these reviews? And considering that this is like, one of the highest scored games of the year, also props to you for getting points for that on Fantasy Critic.
Yeah, I was
Um,
about to say, yeah.
yeah, do we think this is like game of the year material?
I think so, honestly. I mean, like, I feel like for the longest time, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 was kind of the front runner for this spot. I mean, everyone has like kind of praised that game. But yeah, this kind of, I don't know why it surprised me, because I I think it is just because we've been hearing about it for so long that I'm almost kind of desensitized to it. But the fact that it is so glowing across the board, I feel like the first game was, it was still, it was well praised, but it was still a little bit more divisive, where people didn't really gel well with the gameplay style. But
Mm.
this like is really promising. The fact that it is a bit more approachable, I think is great. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the visuals, and like some of the things I've seen like from this game look insane, like like insanely photorealistic. I mean, yeah, I briefly mentioned I'm playing the first game, and like the visuals in that game look like stellar, even as a PS4 game. Like the character models and the environments look like pretty good. But for like stepping it up with two, I think like they've completely blown it out of the water. With just how the lighting impacts the environment, and yeah, again the character models look so photorealistic. It's quite insane. So um, that's the kind of the reason why I started playing Death Stranding 1, because like the hype around 2, I was like, well, I guess I've had Death Stranding 1 for ages, so I should pick it up, I guess. So I'm really hopeful for this, and I could see this being a very strong contender when we get to the end of the year.
Yeah, for reference, the first game had like 82, I think, on the review aggregators. So it was like still positive, but for this to exceed that
Hmm.
is quite a feat, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it sounds like maybe some of the things that received negatives in the first game, they've kind of smoothed those out a bit. So it would make sense if they're doing more of the same and like erasing some of those rough edges that it would be better. But still a difficult thing to do in this day and age.
Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, in terms of like my experience of the first game now, I guess I'll talk about it now because I have something else I can talk about in the what we've been playing later on. But um, I initially played this, or like tried to play it like 5 years ago, just after it came out. But I just didn't gel well with the, basically like the walking simulator esque thing. If you're not familiar with the first game, like to get around the environment, you obviously bounce stuff as a delivery like delivery guy on your back. So your weight impacts how you walk around. So you use the triggers to counterbalance your weight as you're walking along, which can get a little bit tedious. But coming back into it this time, I've found that a lot more fun, I guess. But the fact that was, I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people. So the fact that this is more approachable, I think seeing some of the elements from the first game and then hearing some of these kind of improvements for the sequel, I think you would probably gel a lot more with the sequel. Especially because it also is partially set in Australia, like that it's got that
It's kind
tie
of
too.
cool.
But yeah, I think that's really promising, and I hope more people can kind of dip their toes into Kojima, I guess, without like that kind of barrier to entry. So yeah, I think this is really cool. I hope this kind of just keeps going into his other projects. Like he's got Physant coming out at some
Hmm.
point. He's got that OD, I think, is the Xbox one. That kind of
Yeah.
horror
Is that the
game.
one with Jordan Peele, or is that something different?
Yes, I think that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So he's got a couple things in the works. But yeah, this is really promising for Kojima Productions' future.
Well, that's all I have to say about that. I guess we'll see if I end up being convinced. It's one of those things where it's like it's still, it's a new game. New games are expensive. If you're not like 100% committed, I feel like it's worth waiting a minute. But yeah, I'm not sure if I should play the first game first, like, or
Yeah,
if I should just jump into the new one. But yeah, they do say that even if you choose not to play the first one, like there's a lot of assumed knowledge, so
hmm.
it's worth like having a decent recap or finding a YouTube recap or something like that to try and get familiarize yourself a little bit.
What I will say is that I mean the story it is comprehensible. Like I've been following along, but there are some like weird things. Like there's like
Okay,
this character's like there's like a character called Die Hardman, and he's
nice.
got like a skull mask, and Guillermo del Toro's in it, and he's playing a guy called Deadman, and like it is kind of off the wall insane. So it could be worth playing the first one just to see if it's a kind of game that you would like enjoy. But yeah, yeah, I guess we'll see. If either of us pick it up, because yeah, I'm definitely interested in potentially checking it out. But if that's all we have to say on that, I guess we'll move on to my story, which is about the Street Fighter movie, which has got some casting news and some characters assigned to some of those cast members. And this comes from the Hollywood Reporter and a little bit from Deadline as well. So Curtis 50 Cent Jackson has joined the eclectic cast of Street Fighter, Legendary Entertainment's feature adaptation of the classic Capcom video game. The call sheet ranges from A-lister Jason Momoa as Blanca to heartthrob Nolan Centineo as Ken to country singer Orville Peck as Vega. WWE superstar Roman Reigns and martial artist actor Andrew Koji are on the roll call as Bastila Akuma and lead character Ryu, respectively. Kalina Liang is playing Chun Li, and comedian Andrew Schultz is also playing Dan Hibiki. Jackson will be playing Balrog, a disgraced boxer who's also the bodyguard of the villain. Sources say he's deep into training for the part and he will be doing his own stunts for the picture. Kitao Sakurai, who worked on the Eric Andre show and the movie Bad Trip, is directing the feature, which begins production in August in Australia. Legendary is co-developing and co-producing alongside Capcom. So we got a couple of new updates for this movie, and it seems like it's happening. Obviously the Philifu brothers who directed Talk to Me and have done a lot of like YouTube content under Rakaraka were originally going to work on this project. Now it's Kisao Sakurai directing, but it seems like it's steadily moving along. And yeah, I think these castings are kind of interesting, the kind of directions they've gone with some of these. But um, Lauren, I'll pass it to you. Do you have any like initial kind of impressions of any of these castings, or just like the movie in general, based on everything we've heard about it so far?
I mean, it sounds like it's really coming together and that they're going with kind of star power for these recognizable names. It's interesting because I can't help but see, obviously, like there's another big fighting game that's coming out this year in a similar from a rival company that also films in Australia.
Yeah,
But
it's weird.
And Mortal Kombat 2, and I know that I think Mortal Kombat 1, I haven't seen it, was like passable.
Yeah, it's fine.
Um,
It's okay.
There seems to be some interest in Mortal Kombat 2, but I think it's like a very sort of measured expectations based on number one. But
Yeah.
that's got Carl Urban, so they're trying to, I guess, like add these big faces to the names of these characters who are very familiar in the gaming world and that people have loved for years. And I think that seems to be the Street Fighter approach too, is like, if you're going to bring these characters to the screen, you may as well put interesting actors to the faces, I suppose. Like 50 Cent's obviously a big name. Um, like, yeah, WWE, bring that fandom in. Like, it seems
Yeah.
to be a big merging of all these kind of different fandoms into one movie. But I know nothing about Street Fighter or any of its characters, so I'm going to defer to you on that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because I'm a massive Street Fighter fan, so I'm like cautiously optimistic for this. I hope it's good. It's interesting. I think Andrew Koji is as Ryu is a great choice, and I think he could do a really good job, like leading this. I think he was it Bullet Train that he was in, and
Sure.
I believe he was really good in that. Um, but yeah, it's interesting that they're going kind of, Kitai Sakurai. Uh, like I'm not directly familiar with his work, but like Eric Andre show is very like over the top and insane. Bad Trip, the other movie he directed, is also like a comedy. We've also got some like other kind of comedic esque actors in here. So I wonder if Street Fighter is like a goofy franchise, so I wonder if they're gonna lean into that like campiness and like making this a bit more veering that way. But I hope they still kind of retain some of the, I guess, like just a level of groundedness. I guess you can't like they're people beating each other up in the streets. I guess at the end of the day, like so there is going to be an inherent level of humor to that, but it's exciting. I think like um yeah, Roman Reign is Akuma. Akuma is like a big villain in it. M Bison is the other kind of major villain in the Street Fighter franchise. So I wonder if that casting is still to come, or if Akuma maybe is like the main villain of this. I mean, they mentioned that Balrog is a disgrace boxer who's like the bodyguard of the villain. So I'm assuming that was referring to Akuma. Um, so that's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for some of these other. I wonder how far reaching the roster is going to be. A lot of these characters are from kind of Street Fighter 2 era. But I wonder if they'll pull some of like fan favorites from later games, like Jury is a fan favorite from Street Fighter 4, I believe. And so I wonder if they'll like just kind of pick and choose like based on like these um, based on who kind of works for the story, or if they'll just kind of stick to the OGs, I guess. But yeah, I'm hopeful that it could be something. But like you said, it's weird that it's like so similar to like Mortal Kombat. Like the fact that it's also filming in Australia is such a like
Yeah.
such a strange connection. Like, what is that coincidence?
Yeah. I wonder if they nailed it down while the Filippo brothers were on it and they said, let's do it in
That's
Australia. They
true,
also,
actually.
with Mortal Kombat having filmed in Adelaide, which is where they're from, they might have like done a deal. And they probably have the infrastructure because
Yeah.
of filming something very similar. So that just could be like just the logical reason. But I think that's also probably why they want to go in a more comedic direction, it seems like, because Mortal Kombat is quite fantastical and dark and like
Mm.
gnarly, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
Whereas
gritty. Yeah.
this is probably going to be a bit more like, yeah, uh, campy, comedic, fun. So I
Yeah.
think that could probably work in its favor if done well.
Yeah, definitely. And like yeah, like you mentioned, like the Philippine brothers, like, they're kind of now known for horror, but like
Mm.
before they were mostly like comedy. Like they're all their Raka Raka stuff on YouTube is like very comedy leaning. There's a lot of action and stuff, but they were like very goofy and weird. So I think leaning in that direction could be the move. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Do you have anything else to say about Street Fighter? Should we move it along to the topic?
We'll move along. We'll wait to see how this pans out, I suppose.
Okay. Well, Lauren, I'm gonna ask you again. Do you want
Oh,
to
God.
give us that news jingle?
It's crazy. I don't know if the listeners know this, but we do this live every week. It's not like we pre-record the new jingle, which we probably should.
We
But
probably
anyway,
should.
we don't. We have no zero budget for that. Okay. It's the news we choose. Yeah.
Love it. And yeah, that transitioned us right over to our conversation topic, which is the future of Doom. But before we talk about what is to come, we got a big Doom release, and that was Doom: The Dark Ages, which I mentioned we've both been playing over the past couple weeks. If you're not familiar, Doom: The Dark Ages kind of takes the franchise. It's a prequel to the Doom 2016 reboot, and kind of sets the Doom Slayer in this kind of more medieval type of setting, and he's still killing demons. He's still doing all the classic Doom stuff, but on this kind of medieval Dark Ages aesthetic when he's got a shield which he can throw around and he can shield bash people. And yeah, we played it. Did you finish it, Lauren?
I did finish it. Yeah. So we talked about this I think a few weeks ago and we were just sharing our first impressions. We were only like 4 or 5 chapters in.
Yeah.
But now we've fully finished, and I think I'm first curious to know from you, like, whether your impression changed over the time you played.
Yeah, so I think it did a little bit, just in terms of kind of because I've played Doom 2016 and Eternal, so I have that kind of background of like inherently comparing them to those games,
Yeah.
and I think I liked Doom: The Dark Ages overall, but it kind of I think it does slot in with kind of like I wish it did a little bit more. I like a lot of the elements they bring to it. I like I love the shield. I think the shield is like the best addition in the game in terms of
Yes.
like the movement and the combat options you get with it. But I think uh, just in terms of like, I think they need to shake up the franchise a little bit more, which we'll get a bit more into in a little bit. But I think there are just some elements that I think they could have taken a bit further. Um, it's still a great game, I think, and it's still a lot of fun. But in general, I think I was kind of like, this is a good, but not like amazing game in my opinion. But like generally, how did you find the game as a whole once you got to the end of it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned previously, this is my first Doom game in the modern era. I think I played or I watched my dad play when I was a kid, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's my first time fully playing a Doom game, and I did have a huge amount of fun with it. Like that general like opening when I we spoke about a few weeks ago that I was like, it's just such a cool game. Like that continued pretty much throughout. It's just that I think it was really hard to maintain the coolness for like 23 or 22 chapters or whatever it ended up
Yeah.
being. And the chapters vary in length a fair bit. Like some of them are just like a cutscene and maybe like one action, and then others can be really long, like hour, like 45 minutes. Like they can be much longer. Um, so I think I was pretty with it most of the time, but um, I mean, we can probably get into our issues, but more specifically, but it did sort of hit a ceiling at a certain point where I was like, okay, I've
Mm.
had my fun. I just kind of want this to be done now.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of felt. I think like they almost showed their cards too early. Almost is how I.
Yeah.
It's a Mission Impossible 5 situation where he gets on the side of the plane, he does the big massive stunt at the start of the movie, and then like it's just very hard to reach that height again. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
similar with Doom: The Dark Ages. They
I think you're
they
right.
show the hand a lot at the front end of the game, and then there's not there is still some stuff to look forward to, but there's not. It's a lot of the kind of same motions that you're going through. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess we can get into specifics. Like, what kind of issues specifically, like, did you find that in, like, in that kind of realm?
Well, I think that a lot of my negatives come with really good positives as well. So, like, I agree with you. The shield is amazing. It's such a cool gameplay mechanic. Like I said, it's about as equally satisfying as the Leviathan axe in that you can like block these massive attacks and throw it, use it as a chainsaw. Like it has so many functions, and
Yeah.
it also has functions in like the platforming of the world. Like you'll have to do a. I think I wasn't expecting this from a Doom game, but there is a fair bit of platforming and puzzle solving to get
Mm,
around, and
yeah.
finding secret areas and solving puzzles to get new upgrades and things like that. So I went on and off with that. There were times where I was like, "Yes, I'm really enjoying finding these things." But then definitely towards the end, which I think is my main issue, is that I kind of ran out of things that I wanted to upgrade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because there's lots of cool weapons, but in reality, you're probably only playing with like 2 or 3 key ones because you rarely run out of ammo.
Yeah.
And once you find something that works, you're just going to stick with it because it's such a
Mhm.
heated gameplay situation that you're not sitting there being like, okay, I'm going to quickly switch to this one for this enemy and switch to this one for this other enemy. You're going to attack them all with the same thing the
Mhm.
majority of the time. So I kind of really maxed out my 3 main weapons, and then I was, like, collecting all these upgrade materials with nothing to really use them on, so I'd kind of, like, found my niche probably around halfway through the game once all the weapons had been introduced and all of that, and then I was sort of like, "Okay, but now what?" So it was a lot of, like there was still a lot of game to go from there where we're being thrown in these familiar situations, and there wasn't really anything new to do, so that was probably my main issue with it.
Yeah, because yeah, I found that too because they introduce a couple things like I guess like slight spoilers for like the gameplay of the game, but they introduce a mechanic where you unlock abilities for your shield. So depending on when you parry stuff, like your shield will like strike lightning, or it'll raise a turret that will shoot
Mm.
enemies and stuff. And those are really cool, like little upgrades. But I don't think they were enough to kind of like keep me going, I guess, as it were, because yeah, they kind of introduce these weapons, and then the weapons have like secondary weapons to them when you press like I
Yes.
think it's triangle or square or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like you're almost like overwhelmed with choice, and you don't, because of the way the game is kind of structured, you don't want to constantly like break that momentum by like being like, okay, I'm going to switch to this gun now, or like mid fight, because it like completely shuts down the pace of the game. So yeah, I was similar to you. I found myself kind of gravitating to just like a handful of guns. Like I would basically just use like the super shotgun, and then that kind of, I don't know what it's called, but the massive the gun that had like a massive spread, so that I could like take down like loads of different enemies at
The one
once.
that's like, you put like a skull in it and it like
Yeah, that's
throws
the
out
one.
pieces of flayed skull. I did the exact same thing. Those were my two main weapons as well.
Yeah, that they were just so much fun to use. And like the other weapons are fun. Like there's one that's like a, it's like a ball and chain almost that you like
Mm.
hit people with. But yeah, once you get into a rhythm of what you really like, then your options um really start to narrow in, because yeah, like one of the weapons is like a rocket launcher, and I think I barely even touched that thing because I was like, what, it's like it's cool, but I prefer all these other weapons that I already have and are already like upgraded. So
Yeah.
you kind of run into a wall at that point.
Yeah, one cool thing they do introduce towards the end of the game, and we will go into spoilers, like it's a spoiler review,
Yeah.
but it's like a giant crossbow, and it's
Yes.
like a 3 hit, but 1 hit kind of destroys everything. Like
Hmm.
it's a pretty instant damager. And that was really great, but then I felt I forgot to use it a lot,
Yeah.
and ammo for it didn't always appear frequently. So occasionally when I saw there was an ammo, I would be like, all right, I'm going to use it now so I can go get that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice addition, but it was sort of just went tossed to the wayside at a certain point. They also added like berserk mode towards the end, which was kind of like a rage
Oh yeah.
mode,
Yeah.
which was great, but at the same time, um, I don't know. I got satisfaction from it the first time, and then it kind of came in like 2 or 3 times later, but I think without having the ability to activate berserk mode yourself and choose when to use it, that was kind of
Yeah.
frustrating
Yeah.
because it's like, "Oh, I wanna save this for a moment when I really need it," but now I have to use it against, like, these people before it runs out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it, yeah, having more agency in that way, I think would be great. But yeah, I agree on the, yeah, so the big fucking crossbow, I guess is what it is.
Yeah,
But it's that this game's spin on the big fucking gun from the other games, and it is really, the power fantasy of it when you use it, it's like this is sick. But at the same time, yeah, I would either forget to use it, or it'd almost be like, well, I don't really want to use it because I want to use all these other guns. So like, I feel like it'd be more fun to just like, go around
yeah.
and kill them with these like weapons. So yeah, I think they run into some issues there. I think like one of my other big things, and I don't know how familiar you'll be with this, because this is more so on the other games, but like um, in Dark Ages, when you kill a powerful enemy, there'll be a special animation, and you
Mhm.
like grab a power up from them, basically. Which is basically like this game's version of glory kills, which is basically like this really gnarly way of killing all these enemies, basically. And in previous games, these would be um, like there would be multiple different ways of like animations of killing enemies. Um, per enemy. There would be like unique things that you could do if you like got them down to like low health and you meleeed them. You'd get this cool animation and it'd feel really satisfying. In this game, you don't really have that as much, other than those kind of big powerful enemies. Instead, you'd kind of just, if you get an enemy down to low health and you go to melee them, you'll either just like kick them or you'll like punch them to the side or something like that, and it just feels a bit like less satisfying. And I wish they would
Mm.
introduce those elements a little bit more, because it's kind of a shame that they aren't here. I guess a positive thing, or at least this is a positive. Again, I think it's a mixed bag in some instances, but like I did quite enjoy the mech stuff and the dragon stuff. that was interspersed through this game. I think they add like a bit of variety to the gameplay throughout it. I particularly like the mech stuff because it is basically just like it feels like a fighting game where you're like parrying and like dodging attacks, and like just crushing all these like little cities essentially is insane as a giant mech. Um, but that said, I feel like they are kind of interspersed very strangely. Like the pacing of them,
Mm.
I feel like could have been handled a bit better. But did you feel similar at all?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And I think the mech stuff is very cool because they've clearly put a lot of time into like making it work. And there is that kind of like final boss fight where you do get like an upgraded mech, and that feels like there's been progression. And like, yes,
Yeah.
this mech fight's different to all the others. Um, didn't feel that way with the dragon stuff. And it's like, while the flying the dragon thing seems cool, it's kind of fairly limited in what you can
Yeah.
actually do. It's not kind of like the Game of Thrones fantasy where it's like, oh, I'm breathing fire on everyone, and like that's how I'm
Yeah.
defeating my enemies. It's kind of like you're just flying and like shooting projectiles or chasing things. So it's nice, but that definitely didn't get any kind of progression throughout, which was frustrating. And there's even like, full spoilers, but there's a moment at the end when you're like, it's a boss fight, the final boss fight, and your dragon comes in to help, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna go up and fight in the sky, and like this is our final hurrah, and it's just like the dragon just dies.
Yeah.
Like they kill the dragon, and you're like, what? And it's like it has a noble sacrifice. It's sacrificing itself for you. But I was like, oh, I would have liked like one last cool thing to do on the dragon, kind of in the same way that they did with the mech.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because yeah, I think like the only kind of weapon options you have is yeah, it's literally just holding down R1, I think, and it's just like a steady spray of like of damage. And yeah, I think they could have like added a couple different things to the dragon, like maybe you could you could just add more weapons to it, I guess. I feel like um, the kind of dodging mechanics you do get, it's almost similar to the mech where you can like, where enemies will shoot these like green sprays and you can like, you have to like dodge depending on the direction it's coming at you. But yeah, I don't think it was enough to justify it. I did like the flying around those kind of segments and then like dispatching and then you have to like go on foot and do some stuff. But again, I wish there was a little bit more to that. Because yeah, it does feel kind of satisfying to fly as a dragon, but um, yeah, I just wish there was just a little bit more substance to those aspects of it.
I'm not sure if I have too many other things that are different to points I've said before. We could talk about the story. It's just there.
Yeah, the story is terrible. Honestly, I really was trying to like pay attention, but I I I don't even know what we were fighting for after a while. I'm like, and I don't think it needs like a massive like sprawling story or anything. Like
Not
I
really.
think
I don't think so either.
yeah, Doom is it's about killing demons, and that's all it really needs to be. And I think the game really tries to make you care about some of these characters, and it just doesn't land at all. Um,
No.
I think there was some interesting elements where the Doom Slayer is kind of like under control by these like the con makers, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting, but it doesn't really amount to much. And yeah, at the end of the day, I think like the story is not what you're coming to Doom for. So yeah,
It's not, so you kind of wonder, like, why do they try? Like,
yeah,
put your resources elsewhere. I will say it led to some interesting variety in, I guess, locations,
hmm,
um,
yeah,
which was kind of fun. Like, there's a moment where you go inside this beast, the player level. That's kind of fun.
yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to think of some others. You go to hell, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, forest. So those are kind of interesting, but it's different, but it's the same thing, different shade. Like it's not really that all that different.
yeah,
And I think definitely towards the end, like, they stopped introducing new enemy types. Some of the enemy types they introduced were like really annoying. I don't know about you,
yeah.
but those witches who could
Oh my
phase,
god, yeah.
oh, I hate them
Just
so
about to
much.
say, yeah, they were a pain in the ass to fight against because you essentially that was the one enemy type where it's kind of again, Doom is very momentum based, but that
Yeah,
enemy type you have to wait for them to be able to like fight them essentially. So it kind of like dragged the pacing there a little bit. And on the
yeah,
topic of enemies, I felt like the bosses, while I thought the boss fights were really cool, I think again similar to the mech and dragon stuff, I think they could have paced them out a little bit better. You have these boss fights where you fight like a giant enemy, and eventually those giant enemies just become almost regular enemies, where they're still like
Yes.
massive, imposing foes, but like they basically just become part of the backdrop. But then you have like other proper boss fights, but most of them I would say are like basically reserved for the end of the game.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to the end of the game, it's just like boss fight after boss fight after boss fight, and I felt like they could have just like sprinkled that throughout the game, like the chapters, like a little bit better.
Yeah, and yeah, so they introduced these things called leaders, and you can't attack the leader enemy type until you've damaged enough of the rest of them around in the area.
Yeah,
I didn't mind that. That was fair. There's also I got confused. Sometimes there's ones who are blue. They hold like blue flags, and I think that
yeah,
empowers enemies around them. So I was like, yeah, it's fine, I suppose.
yeah,
I don't want to get too confusing. But yeah, you're right. And these enemies would just start kind of appearing with like no variety towards the end, and that was frustrating. And there are some that there's just maybe not enough explanation on what you need to do to to kill them. Like you say, like the witches is like, it's frustrating because you really just want to hit them
yeah,
and get rid
yeah,
of them so you can like focus on something else, but you can't. And so you're right, it completely slows the momentum down. And I know that I think I said in my initial impressions, I was really struggling with like how hard the game was. By the end, I had definitely gotten a better handle on it, but I had to reduce, like, they have really interesting difficulty settings. I did have to reduce, I think, incoming damage to me to maybe like 50%,
right,
just to get by. And then, like, because I was just dying a lot. And then
yeah,
I got a handle on it, and I think I just forgot to change it back. But I like that that's an option there because that made me want to continue to play the game. But towards the end, it was a little bit like it's just like the same old cycle.
yeah. That's the thing. I think like you get into such a um stride with what you are kind of expected to do, that yeah, by the end of the game, it did become a little bit brain dead, where I was just kind of like, okay, I'm going through the motions, I'm doing this. Um, So I hope they kind of switch things up in the future. Are there any other kind of like points you have on Dark Ages before we get into what we want from future games? Or
I don't think so. I think it is still a really solid game. I had a really good time with it. I just think it needs maybe a little bit of shortening and like sharpening. I don't think it needed to be
yeah,
as long as it was. And then they could have fleshed out some of the chapters they did have with like just a bit of enhancement to like make it feel like you're ramping up to something.
yeah, I'll be interested to see when you if you go back to Doom and Doom Eternal, like what you think,
Yeah.
because I think they are like tighter experiences. And like I liked the sprawling aspect. I like the exploration in this. But I do wonder if like a more refined like game like the original Doom 2016 is a better option for this gameplay style. But
Mm.
uh, we can talk about what we kind of want from like what we want to see from Doom games, I guess now. So yeah, I guess we'll talk about it. So is there anything off the top of your head? We've got a couple different things we were going to talk about: gameplay, weapons, abilities, location settings, and anything else that we might think of. Is there anything you want to jump to in terms of what you want to hope for from a future Doom game based on what you've played so far?
Yeah, I think I have two general concepts that I would love to see Doom do next in terms of where I see, and without having played Doom or Doom Eternal, what I think could be like interesting directions for the franchise to go, and like what I, after playing this, would probably like to do. And one of those is like mainly, I guess, set around setting, but I think we've had Doom the Dark Ages, which was medieval. I think it would be really cool if we went back even further. Let's do Doom prehistoric. Let's go back to the
Oh,
dinosaurs.
oh, okay,
Let's do
that's
the Ice
cool.
Age. Like, I think that would be really cool direction. Like, and yeah, still have your demons and stuff like that, but to add this added layer of, ooh, there's like, yeah, dinosaurs or mammoths or these kinds of like things into your world, I think would be a really interesting direction for them to go, and something that's kind of fresh. That's not just like we're on an obscure hellscape or something like that. I want to be able to like fight a dinosaur. I want to be able to ride a dinosaur. I want to be able to like call upon a dinosaur to like assist me. Like I kind of want like a Jurassic Park Doom game, essentially.
That sounds sick. Jurassic Doom or like
Yeah.
Doom Primal basically.
Yes.
Far Cry did it. So That's sick. I didn't even think about that. I think that would be really cool. Because yeah, you could like, I think they do switch up some of the enemy designs based on like what we've seen in other games to fit the aesthetic of this. But going back even further and seeing like the kind of the pre-evolutions essentially of some of these creatures and
Mm.
like what that would look like, I think would like make for, I think that would be really sick, and it could like inform a lot of the weapon options as well. I feel like, um, yeah, I really like this idea. It's almost like reminds me of Prey, like the Predator movie, and
Oh
like
yeah.
taking this like uber powerful like character and just putting them like way back in the past and like this completely like something that like is completely removed from all of that. I think would be, yeah, I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and I think there's ways to like add those kinds of not like mini games, but like alternative gameplay styles. Like if it is, um, that you do get to like have a tame a dinosaur that you can ride atop of and crush enemies and stuff, and like that's part of the gameplay. And maybe there's another demon who's got a dinosaur on his side, and that's like you could do dino battles or something like
Hmm.
that. I do think I was trying to think of like what a cool ability would be, like the kind of like the gimmick. Because I mean, I would love to have the shield for everything, but I feel like it was Doom the Dark Ages' thing, so you
Yeah.
need something new. And what something I really loved in Far Cry Primal that they did was like you had, and they've kept it in all the Far Cry games since, but you have like companion animals
Mm.
who can like help you in battles and things like that. It's mainly used for like it's very useful in stealth situations, and you're only really fighting like humans in that world. But I think having like a companion kind of animal or dinosaur or something that you could sick on people would be really fun.
That'd be cool. Like, yeah, I'm thinking of like, they have like the Kako demons, which are those bit like sphere like demons with the one eye, which are like the kind
Mm,
of the mascot of the franchise, other than Doomslayer, of course. But you could have like a baby one of those. Maybe you could like sick them on like demons and stuff. Like, I think that'd be really cool. Or even like a little Stegosaurus or something. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
a little pterodactyl guy.
yeah, I think because yeah, like obviously, if in this kind of like hypothetical setting, like there are a lot of dinosaurs that you could choose from. You don't have to just make it a T Rex. So like maybe
Mm,
instead of like unlocking like shield abilities like you did in this game, it's like different dinosaurs that you tame, and um I think
mm.
that would add like a wholesome spin almost to the
It would,
Doomslayer.
wouldn't
Like
it?
he's a really angry guy, but maybe
Beastmaster.
yeah, maybe I mean, he loves his dragon in Dark Ages,
Yeah.
presumably. So surely he could have a dinosaur connection.
Yeah, I think that that's something that just to like feel like you have a bit of help in the fight as well sometimes would be good. It's like, you always have so many things going on around you at once, and you've got someone shooting at you from far away. Like, can I just have someone go deal with that while I handle these
Yeah,
people?
yeah, definitely.
That would be cool. But
Yeah,
yeah, what are your thoughts for what would you want to see from the future?
yeah. So I had a couple things written down here, and they're kind of centered around, I think, fundamentally shifting the packaging of Doom, and this would kind of I think this would kind of inherently change what Doom is, but I think that's what Doom needs right now.
Mm,
Because I've like I said, I like this trilogy of games, but I think they need to do something like a little bit out of left field, while sticking to like stuff that people kind of expect or like. And well, my one big idea is to make Doom a roguelike. I think like Doom, the gameplay loop is what you're in for, and that kind of scaling of power I think is something that like is really satisfying, but some of the elements of these past Doom games kind of stunt that a little bit, and I think a roguelike having to kind of like build up your Doom Slayer, add in new abilities, finding new weapons with different augments maybe or that sort of thing, getting maybe you're maybe it's like a Hades situation where you're trying to get out of
mm,
hell or something like that. And yeah, I just think like adding that kind of different gameplay mechanic, maybe yeah, like you get to a checkpoint, there's a boss fight, and you kind of build up um your way through, but yeah, I just think adding like a roguelike to Doom kind of makes sense because we've seen it from so many different games, especially recently. So I think doing that could be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really fun. I hadn't thought about that at all, but it's totally a formula that would work for something like Doom because I think in the very original games, it was sort of like a dungeon crawler, wasn't it? Like the
So
original
yeah,
Doom games, so it could definitely work. Like I'm picturing like it could be like a prison escape or something like that. Like you're trying to escape this weird demon prison, and the inmates are out, or they're the guards. I'm not sure. Or yeah, even just like you like there doesn't really need to be an explanation for it, right? It's just like here's
yeah,
the challenge. Like
exactly.
use all the Doom elements to your disposal. Because I think something we've figured out in Doom the Dark Ages is like yeah, like there's a story, but there really doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So just give us cool situations, cool weapons, cool gameplay, and like we're here. We don't need like a big branching narrative arc.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it would be tailor made for that. The other kind of gameplay shift I could see, and I mean, Doomslayer looks similar-ish to Samus's armor, so why not put Doom in a Metroidvania? Like, have this kind of Doom: The Dark Ages like had this thing where you had these sprawling areas, but I feel uh, like you kind of touched on, exploring them to a certain point, like the act of doing these challenges is fun, but sometimes the reward is just like, oh, I got another upgrade, so I can like upgrade this weapon that I'm probably not going to use. I
Mm,
think setting it where you're like having to explore a little bit, obviously have like encounters as you go through, killing enemies, finding different guns across the map, and new abilities and that sort of thing. I think would maybe make that experience of like exploration in a Doom setting a little bit better, or at least make a little bit more sense, just momentum wise. I think like you can do that like a Metroidvania where it's like very fast paced and you're like barreling through these areas and exploring and that sort of thing. But yeah, doing it in this format that kind of is a little bit more structured, and you can uh like censor things around that. And again, like you don't need a like crazy story or anything. You're like just put in this thing and you got to like find your way through this weird world. Again, maybe it could be like a prison and you're finding different avenues and that sort of stuff. But I think like a Metroidvania could be, if not like as a main Doom game, maybe just like a spin-off. I think that could be really cool.
yeah, I think so. I'm like less inclined to try that one. I think just because Metroidvanias aren't my thing. But I think
Yeah.
I get what you're selling, which is like we've had three of these Doom games that are kind of in a specific format. Let's
Hmm.
shake it up a little bit. Um, so I think that is like a fair call to like it would work for that setting as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, as for like settings, I think honestly, like I had a couple ideas. Like, I mean, hell, like, the opposite of hell is ice, right? So set it as an ice thing, but I don't think anything is going to come close to the prehistoric stuff. So I think honestly, roguelike in a prehistoric setting that'd be cool. But I think the ones, or in terms of like the kind of uh, weapons that I was thinking about.
Mm.
And I apologize if you don't mess with Overwatch, but like a lot of the ideas I had were coming from Overwatch, basically. Um, so there's a character called Roadhog, and he has an ability in the game where he's this big hook, and there's this kind of similar mechanic in Doom Eternal where you have like a grappling hook, but you mostly use it to like attach to enemies, and you can like use it to like maneuver yourself, almost like Spider-Man, I guess. But I would love if you can do what Roadhog does, and you throw your hook at an enemy and like pull the enemy towards you. So just these different like ways of maneuverability and uh making it so that you can like interact with enemies better, because I think that's what the shield does very well, is that it like allows you to move across the map, interact with enemies really well. And I think something like that would be really cool. Or like another idea was like a throwing axe,
Mm,
and you could throw the throwing axe at an enemy, it would like lodge into them, and you could do like a Kratos thing where you pull the axe but it pulls the enemy with it. And
mm.
that would be kind of a way to like get these enemies like in your area and like allow you to um basically deal with them a lot better. But yeah, those are my two kind of big ideas in terms of like I guess some more abilities than weapons, but yeah.
Yeah, I had absolutely the same thought with the grappling hook idea because I think there are definitely occasions in Doom the Dark Ages where it's just like an enemy is out of reach and you just want to and you can't even reach them sometimes. So
Yeah.
you can throw the shield or shoot a gun, but it'll be nice to bring them to close quarters if you want to like get them with your shotgun or a melee attack. I think if you look at the progression of like these kind of gimmicks in the Doom games, like you have Eternal, which is I think the double jump. So you're kind of
Yeah.
you're forced to like take enemies at range and or dodge and get out of range, and that's kind of the idea of that. In this one, you're kind of you're defensive, like you are forced
Yeah.
to sort of in the thick of it and use your shield to defend. And then I think another way to build on that would be to like, all right, let's bring the enemies to you now. Like
Yeah.
have like, but have it both ways. Have it that like you can bring them to you or you can throw them away.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think that, yeah, one of my other ideas was like, I'm gonna reference Overwatch again, but one character is Junkrat, and he has like bombs that you can throw on the floor, but they also like propel enemies away. So I think something like that, where it's like you can throw a bomb and it like propels them across the map, or like yeah, a gun that would like pushes enemies back, so they're like will get out of your face or something like that. I think something like that would be, yeah, I think that would be really cool. And I think you could
I think
get
even
a
in
bit crazy with that.
the hook idea, like if it can bring if it's to say like a retractable grappling hook or something, or whatever cool thing they come up with. But
Yeah,
if it like can bring it to you, you should also have an option to like, I don't know, like fling them with it or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Maybe like you could, yeah, maybe you could like even like hook people, like hook enemies, and like throw them at other enemies or something like that. Like
Mm,
have them interact a little bit more. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm looking through my list of other stuff I had. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the double jump in Eternal. This might be taking a bit too far. I don't know. But one thing I don't think they've done really is like a jetpack. Um,
Yeah, I had that
I,
thought too.
yeah, I think like even if it wasn't like full on flight, maybe it was like you press a button. It's similar to Farah from Overwatch again. Sorry for the Overwatch comparisons, but like and she does a thing. You press the button and she like launches into the air. Maybe it'd be a similar situation where you launch into the air and you like hover for a little bit. So it's like not
Mm.
uber powerful, but you can again like use it to get from one place to another. So you're like if you're overwhelmed with enemies, get to a different place on the map, or if you want to advance on an enemy, you could like use it to do that. I think that would just give you a lot more options.
Yeah, I like the idea too. I am just like I'm not sure how similar it is to Eternal, but I think having a flight option or like a ranged option is a good one, just to like get yourself out of the thick of it. Yeah, so I think that's cool. I didn't have really too many other ability ideas. I like the companion idea. I think weapons in general, like I don't have any sort of specific big pitch for these, but like I would have liked a flamethrower
Mm,
because I got
yeah.
burned by them enough in the game that I would have liked to have some sort of option, particularly like, yeah, because you kind for a gun with a good spread, you were kind of limited to that Skull Crusher one.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and like to have sort of like a fire option to just like get a lot of enemies at once would have been good. Or a similar idea would have maybe been like a lightning type gun because they do introduce bursts of lightning, like you say, with your parry move, but to maybe have that in a weapon. I guess the chain shot was kind of that, but not
Yeah.
really to the effect that I'm thinking.
Yeah. You could almost do like a railgun thing where it like chain lightnings on enemies and that sort
Yeah,
of thing. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, they had a similar. It like they have a like flamethrower in Eternal, but it's not like that. It's like a melee option essentially, where you like
right.
spray them with like a flamethrower, and then it gives you shield. So having like a full on flamethrower gun, I think would like change things up, and like yeah, like having a wide spread like that would be really cool. Um, yeah, I didn't have like loads of ideas for weapons because I'm sure the people working on the games are way more creative than I am, but I think they obviously the shotgun is like iconic, like
Yeah.
so they're gonna want to bring that back for the game. But like I think just going crazy with it, maybe even do like double shotgun. Maybe you like have two guns, and like
Mm,
that's how they switch things up. Um, the one idea I had was Halo has the needler, which is like the gun with like purple spikes in it, and you shoot like spikes out of it. Um, so something like that where it's like cool different times without ammo. Like I guess they have a similar thing in this one, which is like again the it's one of the guns that is almost like a sniper rifle and it shoots
yeah.
little spikes on people. So but maybe taking that as like a more rapid fire kind of direction I think would be
Mm.
cool.
I
Yeah.
very rarely use that one just because of how fast paced.
Yeah,
Doom's combat is, but I appreciate the option.
yeah, definitely.
They have to cater for everyone, you know.
That's the thing. Yeah, if you want to get cool trick shots, I guess that's how you do it. But I'm not good at that actually, so
No.
I can't do that. Yeah, I'm just looking through here again. The last thing I had, I guess, in terms of weapons was, they've done chainsaw, they've done sword, they've done shield. The only thing I don't think they've done is like a big hammer. So like get a big hammer like Jace from League
Yeah.
or Arcane. I'd love to see that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
But
it's like they almost do it in this game with the there's like a third melee attack you unlock, which is kind of like a big bat kind of thing.
yeah, it's like a
Uh,
club or something. Yeah,
yeah, so it's almost like I never used that because it was too slow.
yeah.
Um, I was big on the mace in this. The mace
The
was
mace
really
is
cool.
awesome. Yeah, I love how it just like the physics of it feels so like I don't know, feels so satisfying to use that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I that's all I had really. Is there anything else you had on your list for what you want to see?
I had one more kind of like concept idea, which could take the franchise in maybe a new direction. But like back in the day, id Software was responsible for Doom, and it was also responsible for another shooter game which is called Quake.
Mm.
And I think Quake has kind of lapsed in recent years. Champions, I think, was the most recent thing they did, and that was kind of has faded into oblivion now. But with Doom coming back, I would love to for them to revamp Quake as well. But maybe they could do that by like merging the franchises together. Like do
Mm.
Quake, sorry, do like Doom Arena, like make it a gladiator style game where because like we've talked about, the story isn't really that needed, so
Yeah,
throwing your Doomslayer into just like a variety of like gladiator style challenges, like almost like you're the predator, you're still like trying to defeat all the champions of these different planets or something like that. Um and you just get, as you build like through ranks, you get cool new weapons and cool new abilities and different enemy types. Like I think that's just like the simplest way to do it.
yeah.
And then like also add in that Quake Arena kind of vibe.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think yeah, yeah, like you said, you don't need the like crazy story. Like I think those kind of battle arenas in Doom are what it's all about, like that kind of gameplay loop of like flinging around the battlefield and killing demons. So that setting would like work really well. Yeah, and you could
Yeah.
like change up the environment and it could be this like ever evolving battle arena thing that like, maybe platforms raise or like different I don't know pits of lava sharks I don't know demon sharks to show
But
up or something.
totally.
Yeah, things like that, like and shaking it up. I think would be I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah, just like do cool shit for no reason,
Yeah,
basically. Just let us
exactly.
have it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I guess one thing I missed. The only other thing I mentioned or I had on my list was uh I guess like there's one moment that people pointed out in Doom Eternal, I believe, where you're like in space, um, but and it's like floating like space debris and stuff. But you as the Doomslayer, the physics are just normal. And like people kind of wishing that like, oh, it'd be cool if there's like an anti-gravity like moment or something like that. I think maybe playing around with the physics and stuff, I think would be kind of interesting. Like yeah, doing like an anti-gravity thing or like having different movement options like again, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Overwatch a lot, but Tracer from Overwatch, she has like a dodge or like a phase kind of thing where she like you press the button and she moves from one thing to another. So giving something like that to Doom where you like have dodging abilities but also like maneuverability where you can like zip around the battlefield, I think would be really cool. So yeah, just playing around the physics I think could be interesting.
That would be fun. I did enjoy in this game how in Doom the Dark Ages how your shield, you could do like a shield bash, which would really rapidly get you across
Yeah,
the area. And even when you weren't fighting enemies, like you could have traversal options with the shield, which was really cool. But I think adding a bit of zippiness to that would be a good idea. However, they
yeah,
plan to do that.
I think so. Yeah, so yeah, I think is that all we have to say on the future of Doom, or is there anything else you want to
No, I think that's it. But like Bethesda, id, we're available for consulting. If you want to
say?
like take
Yeah,
us up on any of these ideas, we are so available.
yeah, we can. If you want us to creative consultant, I was gonna say
Yeah,
like if you want us to
playtest.
lead, if you want us to lead the game, but I don't think we could lead the game's development
No, no.
necessarily. But we're open to help out. I mean, we're
Yeah.
kind souls. We'll do it. So yeah, that's the future of Doom. If you've got anything that you'd hope to see from a Doom game in the future, let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear it. But that's all we got. I guess we'll talk about what we've been playing. Lauren, other than Doom, is there anything you've been playing this past week?
Yeah, it's really not anything interesting for me this week because it has been like rapidly trying to finish Doom.
Yeah,
So come back to me next week when I've started a new adventure.
sounds good. Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about a bit what I've been playing or watching because yeah, I mentioned I've dipped my toes in Death Stranding. I'll talk a bit more about that over the next couple of weeks because I will keep playing it. It's a lot of fun. But I also did another gaming related like activity, I guess. And I don't know how much I'll be able to talk about it because like I didn't get any footage of it, unfortunately. But I attended the Undertale 10th anniversary concert, which is basically a concert in London where they got an orchestra to play a lot of the soundtrack from Undertale, which is one of my favorite games that I've never actually finished. Like, it's one of those few games where I'm like, I adore this game, but I've never actually like fully finished it. But I have to say, like, this is genuinely one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Like, it was
Oh,
actually
nice.
insane. The music of Undertale is to me one of the most beautiful like gaming soundtrack, maybe the most beautiful soundtracks like ever. It just I don't know, like the way it has such like quirky music to it, but also like such epic themes. There's one moment where I guess slight spoilers for Undertale, but like there's a moment where this little duck carries you over this really small gap in the game, and it's this really like stupid moment where it's this little tiny duck dragging your character and like but it's this really epic music playing, and they played that moment at the gameplay on screen and everyone was like cheering, being like, yeah, this is sick. So it's really cool. Like honestly, like the crowd there at first they were a little bit like I got the impression, I don't know this for sure, this is just kind of what I gleaned, but I got the impression that for a lot of people, it was probably their first like concert experience. So they were kind of timid in terms of like, oh, should we clap now? Like, what's the kind of situation here? But by like, I don't know, after the first boss fight, essentially, they were like, it was Era's tour level of
Wow.
levels of loudness. Like it was like the passion and the just excitement was like nothing I've ever experienced. It was so cool. Shout out to the violins, like the way there's a track called Death by Glamour, and like the violins kind of just go crazy in that song, and they were just like they just look so cool. Like they look so cool playing up on the stage, and yeah, I've never been to a concert like that where they played so much from the game. Like it was such a wide spanning like concert. They covered so many of the songs that I wanted to see. And yeah, it was an amazing time. And I honestly like for some reason I've never thought about it, but I think this has to be a game we play on New Game Plus, or at least try, because it is such a interesting game that I'd love to get. I don't know if Klein's even played it or not, but I'd love to see what you guys think of it because I think it's just the story it tells and the way the gameplay works. I think is really interesting. So I'm excited to see. I would be excited to see what you guys would think of it. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. Stay
Yeah,
tuned.
yeah. Stay tuned. We might get to it. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this Control Club. And speaking of New Game Plus, we're playing Slow 2 for New Game Plus. Yeah. Well, I'm getting through it. We will play
Oh,
it.
you've started?
I have started it.
Okay,
I
great.
think at I'm like midway through. I'm on the fourth kind of episode.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So but I know it is a longer game, so I'm like obviously playing Death Stranding, which is like a 40-hour game. So I'm like I'm like trying to, make sure I get through it and stuff. So but yeah, we'll have more thoughts on Slide 2 when we talk about it later on. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Controller Club, I think. Yeah, you can follow the show at Controller Club Pod on Instagram and Blue Sky, at controller_club on Twitter, and at controller.club on TikTok. And you can also watch a video version of the podcast if you're not already. Hello, YouTube. On our YouTube channel, subscribe to Controller Club at youtube.com/at controller_club to watch the latest episodes, best segments, clips from the past, all these sorts of things. Yeah, and you can also rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. 5 stars would be great. And you can send in any questions, topic ideas, or just simple hellos to controllerclub pod@gmail.com. Lauren, where can people find you?
You can find me at lrouse19 on the socials. Not posting a whole lot of stuff, but I am working. I swear I work. Occasionally, I just don't feel the need to post about it. But yeah, on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Twitter occasionally if I post things. That's where you found me at lrouse19.
Sounds good. And you can find me at Tom Drouart. Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, basically everywhere on the internet. Yeah, the only thing I have to promote is that if you watch the movie K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix, I also watched that movie and I had a really good time with it. And I wrote an article about it on thedirect.com. So if you like the movie and want to read more about it, check out that article. It would mean a lot. That's going to do it for this episode of Control Club. Thank you so much for listening. Now, let's get gaming.